What's up everybody? Unless you are truly living under a rock, everybody at this point has heard about the brand new Overwatch Workshop and the amazing features that it is introducing to the game. Whether you've tried it out for yourself or simply have been watching others play around with it, basically everyone who's interested in Overwatch at this point has in some way interacted with this new workshop. So there's really no question as for whether or not it's popular. However, given that the community is often focusing on ideas for how to possibly improve and, for lack of a better word, save Overwatch, is the workshop really going to be the Overwatch savior we need? This is Master Ian Gamer, and let's get into it. Now, as I said, there's no question that the workshop is a fantastic addition to the game. Simply looking at Reddit, YouTube, the Overwatch forums, people are obsessed with this, and it's truly amazing just how much has been done with this tool, even while it's only on the PTR. But as much fun as it undoubtedly is to mess around with all the immense amount of power and potential that comes with a tool like the workshop, is this really what Overwatch needs? Now, when it comes to discussing what Overwatch needs, some of the big ideas that generally come up have to do with competitive play and finding ways to make the game feel more balanced and engaging. I'm sure we're all very familiar with the different problems that can arise from a team-based shooter game like this, especially when you have asymmetrically designed characters. And so it only makes sense that the majority of requests we see from the community is asking Blizzard to better balance the characters and more or less improve competitive mode and even quick play if that's what you end up playing the most. Quick play and competitive are the core modes of Overwatch, and I don't think that's ever going to change regardless of what people come up with in the workshop. So the fact that the workshop is this sort of standalone side project where you can play around and do whatever you want with it and create these amazing things, but none of which will really influence the core modes of the game, is it really fixing the issues that Overwatch has, or just adding more shiny new bells and whistles to distract us? Now, calling it a distraction might carry a bit of a negative connotation with it, but I really don't see it as necessarily being problematic or bad. After all, Overwatch is a video game for the vast majority of players. It exists basically as an escape mechanism, as a way to de-stress after a long day of work, or be a fun distraction during your free time. So if you pick up Overwatch and are only interested in playing these random side workshop game modes, but you have a whole ton of fun doing it, then that absolutely is beneficial to the game and is the main reason why I say that the workshop is an objectively good addition. It does have its downsides I'm foreseeing though, such as the idea that the introduction of all these side workshop modes is going to drag a lot of players away from competitive and quick play, so much so that the people who do enjoy these core modes are going to have a harder time when it comes to matchmaking and being able to get into matches with fairly balanced opponents and teammates. Now, I will admit it is still too early to say for sure just how much of an impact it's going to have all these players who were previously playing quick play and competitive now shifting over to the arcade and workshop, and we also have to consider the fact that the workshop simply existing is going to be a huge driving factor to either bring back players who have since left the game, or potentially even brand new players who weren't initially interested by what the game had to offer, but now sees a whole ton of awesome potential with the addition of the workshop. So when it comes to simply getting people to play the game, again, I think the workshop is probably going to be a net benefit in the number of players it brings in. But going back now to the issues I brought up earlier when it comes to hero balance, competitive modes, and getting teammates to work together properly, well, unfortunately, I don't really see the workshop fixing this in any meaningful way. Now, I will admit that giving the community the ability to customize heroes and game modes to their heart's content may seem like a way that could end up resulting in either some very beneficial hero balance changes or maybe even some really popular changes to modes like competitive. Overall though, I just really don't see it actually playing out like that. While it's true that there have already been a number of popular content creators or influencers in the Overwatch community who've managed to group people together to test out things like a new Mercy change that they had in mind, or some kind of little tweaks to the competitive game mode rule set, for the vast majority of players, even if you come up with a cool little balance change for one of your favorite heroes, you're not really going to have the means to properly test it to the degree that you'd ever be able to get good enough feedback to determine whether or not the change is good. For example, let's say you'd make a tweak to Reaper that you think is really good and you want to test it out. Maybe you've got a few friends who can hop into the lobby with you and kind of test out the change against certain heroes and certain little combinations, but you're not going to have an adequately balanced team of 6 6 versus 6 on the same level you'd get with the matchmaking in quick player competitive. Because of this, it would, for all intents and purposes, be impossible to tell whether or not the changes you're putting forward are actually going to be more balanced and beneficial than what the hero already had before you applied the changes. If anything, the workshop is going to work best as sort of a proof of concept where you can sort of construct a new ability for heroes, show off how it might work and the sort of effects it might have, but when it comes to finding actual proper balance, I just don't see it being a realistic testing ground in order to find what works. The same thing applies to game modes as well. You can maybe get together a group of 12 people to try out this cool new game mode you came up with, a game mode that's so great that you think Blizzard could potentially move forward with adding it alongside the standard Assault, Hybrid, Escort, and Control Point map modes which we've had since launch, and maybe Blizzard will do some internal testing with these ideas if there's some that stick out to them, but it's going to be nearly impossible for the community to get together themselves and have a sort of balanced experiment to try out game modes like this. So to that extent, I just really don't see the workshop being a good place to actually bring about improvements to Overwatch's core modes, which again are quick play and competitive. And so by that standard, no, I wouldn't say that the workshop is going to quote unquote save Overwatch. Now the addition of the workshop itself, I cannot emphasize enough, is an amazing new tool for the community. I honestly think you could argue that the workshop is the single most important addition the game has ever had since the release of competitive mode a month after the game launched back in 2016. Just the sheer amount of engagement and content which is going to come out of the workshop simply by giving control to the community is, for all intents and purposes, basically infinite. I mean, you look at a game like Team Fortress 2, which has had community created content in it for years at this point, even though the game itself has slowed to a snail's pace in terms of content updates and new additions, the community is still going strong with making their own content for the game, and I think that's incredibly good news for how the workshop is going to play out with Overwatch. Giving control to the Overwatch community is almost like giving Overwatch itself a second wind. If you were to come up with an arbitrary timeline showing how Overwatch would eventually decline in popularity over the years to the point where eventually nobody was going to end up playing it anymore, adding the workshop, especially while Overwatch still has a substantially sized player base, is going to exponentially extend that timeline and the overall lifespan of the game. Even if we do one day reach a point where Blizzard is thinking, okay, it's not really worthwhile to keep updating the game ourselves, maybe there'll be 1 or 2 new maps and heroes a year, but other than that they're going to slow down the pace of official content additions, the workshop will still be going strong, pumping out fun game modes. Maybe at that point we'll even get a full-on hero creation tool, more so than just editing and customizing the heroes which already exist, and from there the game will basically just sort of run itself. The community who's still keeping up with it will be putting out their own content additions, essentially, and Blizzard can basically take a back seat and profit heavily off of the community's hard work. Now, I don't think Blizzard is going to give up anytime soon. I don't think we're going to see them just sort of sit back and let the community do all the heavy lifting from here on out. I do still think we're going to be seeing 3 new heroes a year and stuff like that, since those are content additions which we can't quite make for ourselves just yet, but in terms of giving the game more life and more to do and just helping the player base become more engaged and make it more fun and interesting, yeah, the workshop is absolutely going to do that. It's already doing it. We can see it on Reddit and the forums and YouTube. I haven't seen the community this engaged in a new content edition for Overwatch in literally years at this point. I'm very excited to see what this ends up doing in the long run and seeing how it changes the game overall. When the workshop goes to live servers, we really are going to be entering a brave new world, and I don't think anyone can accurately predict what exactly is going to end up happening. Once this goes live, the game will have been changed forever, and I think it's going to be a change for the better. Anyways, these have just been my thoughts about the new Overwatch workshop and how I think it's going to play out and benefit the game. Maybe it won't quite save the game in the same way that people are hoping it would, but nonetheless, I think it is an objectively great addition and one that people are going to be enjoying for years and years more to come. But let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments below. Do you think that the workshop is going to be an amazing tool for the community moving forward, or do you think people are maybe getting a little overhyped and a few months from now nobody's really going to care? Either way, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and share it with a friend if you really liked it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit up the bell to never miss any of my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off. And until next time, have a great day.